Welcome to Overwatch, and welcome to another episode of Coaching the Many. Today, we're going to be talking all about Lucio. Lucio, fun fact for those of you out there, Lucio is my most played hero for this season on my main account, with I think about 3 hours, and Zenyatta on 2 hours something. But Lucio has actually become my most played, partially because I don't like playing Mercy, and so you usually end up playing as Lucio. That it has changed, like the patch is sort of changed and shifted, and is shifting the meta around, and everything's going weird. Thank you, Delius, for the traditional the traditional
welcome to Poaching the
interruption. Thank you for that. I think I've got more coming as well, judging from chat. Anyway, we have like an interesting time in the meta, because Zenyatta is sort of creeping in. I think it's just off the back of also people are used to playing Zenyatta, so people have, like, you got the people who don't want to play Mercy. You usually have one person playing Mercy, and then it's like, well, I can't play Lucio, so I'm going to play Zen instead. Part of it, I think that does actually factor into it a little bit, but it's also a factor of, like, team comps are generally a bit stodgier these days. Team comps, it's not like a high-paced, high-speed dive meta anymore, so you don't have to have the movement speed buff, but it's still very important in sort of shifting around. And I think that, let me put it this way, if someone's going, oh my god, we lost because we had a Lucio, like, what the fuck? Like, both comps are just viable. It's just that people seem to be falling back on the Zenyatta. Zen can also do a lot in terms of just getting picks and getting damage, getting openings. Transcendence is just a really good ultimate, especially with the nerf that Sound Barrier got, where if you get caught when you're trying to drop the beat, you will lose the Sound Barrier, and that's actually a really, really nasty little nerf. So, really kind of feels icky. It's weird. Also, like, the thing is, the current meta on ladder, and just to wrap up this intro before we really get into this game itself, the current meta on ladder is very unique because there haven't been very many big tournaments. There haven't been very many big tournaments on these patches. Like, the Mercy buff came in and everyone just kind of went, whoa, that's way too powerful. So most tournaments have either been played on the patch before it or will be played on the patch upcoming. We haven't had too much on this patch itself, except for, I think, some of the Pacific stuff might have been played on this patch, but like, people will generally just realize that, yeah, it's just Mercy, it's a Mercy fest, and that's all it is, and everything just hinges around the Mercy play, so it's kind of boring. So yeah, like, pro influence on this patch has been very, very small. APAC, that's the one. So yeah, it's been like, and like, nobody watches APAC. Pretty much nobody watches APAC. I watched a bit of APAC and it was like, okay, well, Mercy's overpowered, okay. But yeah, like, no one watches APAC. I watched Envision, and that's it, because I like Envision. I like some of the players on Envision. I'm a big fan of Sieni. No idea how to pronounce his name. Anyway, this game in particular is an interesting one because it's a Lucio game, and what ended up happening was this guy joined a game. There is a 4-stack on his team, 3 of which are Grandmaster, 1 of which is Master. The average rating in the game is 3.8k, but our player here is a 3k player. It's 3050, as you can see up here. He's decided to play Lucio. He's apparently got ping issues. First thing I'm going to tell you, if you think you've got ping issues, go into your options and turn on the options to turn on, like, your latency and stuff like that. Latency, frame rate is all you really need, but it will just help confirm if you are having high latency. Is it spiking on certain things? Frame rate's useful. If it's dipping for any reason, you can spot that out very quickly. Just having a consistent frame rate, usually over 60, is going to be very important if you want to start pushing higher and higher and higher. It makes the game way easier. 60 is sort of, to me, the sort of the line. When you start dipping under 60, then you're really going to start having negatives on your performance. And then as you get higher and higher and higher, especially if you're playing stuff like Tracer, Zarya as well, just having the higher frame rate will help a little bit. But apparently this guy had high latency throughout this game. On Lucio, like, high latency isn't the biggest deal in the world, but can affect a couple of things. So first things first as well with this game, when I was watching it through, I noticed this Headhawk guy is very vocal. I also want to know what region this is on. It's kind of interesting, but you can see, like, the team isn't starting out in the traditional spot. So if you're curious about Dorado, where do you start out on Dorado? You usually just have your team set up on the high ground here, just to do a little bit of damage and sort of slow down the enemy progression coming forward. The team hasn't set up here just yet. We are doing what we can just to keep the Mercy alive, and then just trying to get people set up. People take damage, we go to heal, and otherwise when repositioning, we use speed boost. Like, this, like, from this very moment, from the very start of this game, I knew that we understood sort of the fundamental principle of Lucio, which is Lucio to me is the very definition of support because you are all about facilitating what other people want to do, and it's pretty simple. If the enemy is fighting and taking damage, you probably want to be on heal aura. If you're moving from place to place, from A to B, you want to be on speed aura. It's simple, but you'd be surprised at how often people fail at this. And part of it is just understanding like when people want to move. So for example, in this instance here, like, okay, well, the Reinhardt's taking a shitload of damage, he's starting to back away. We don't really have anything to fight from this high ground, so it's like a realization, okay, we need to move, so let's move around to the front. Let's do that. Our team lineup, we didn't get a good look at it, but it's Mei Tracer is our DPS, which isn't a great DPS combo, so we're going to have to be relatively aggressive, and we're going to have to rely on this Mei getting a lot done. A new team has an Orisa, so I want to be careful. Signs, if they have an Orisa, chances are good they usually have a Bastion, and we could hear the Bastion as well. You listen very carefully, if I put my other headphone on. Like, you can hear the sort of the whine noise that Bastion makes. Bastion's actually very, very noisy. It's Southeast Asia, okay, yes. Thought so. So hey, we spot up the Bastion. So first things first, make sure that we stay the hell away from the Bastion. This is unfortunate because we sort of get caught out. Like, the Bastion's allowed to split our team. When you see this happening, like, we just have to try and regroup with our team because we're in a nightmare situation now where the Bastion sort of cut off this area, so we either have to go back or we take the decision that we make, which is to sort of use this wall and then try and regroup this way. Let's see how that goes. Spot the Tracer, go to healing, we get pulled back in. Bit of a panic moment here, just remember that, you know, the pull, it's gonna pull you. There's not much you can do about it, so just try and get back into cover as quickly as possible. But we do manage to get back, just stay behind the Zarya, but hey, the Tracer does the job and hunts us down. This is a dead Reinhardt. They're trying the Raising Bastion strat, okay. So, it's worth pointing out, like, there we go. We have a brief moment. So part of our team is a 4-stack, and I know that in the email it mentioned like one of the things was, you know, the idea of shot calling and what shot calling should we be doing on the Lucio. If you're playing with a 4-stack, in general, try and let the 4-stack do the bulk of that theoretical work because they're going to be more in sync with each other. They know how to play with each other. If they're trying the sort of the Bastion lift strategy where you're trying to raise Bastion basically off or above the barrier and shoot him down, Tracer's not the pick. You want to just have something that can do a lot of damage very quickly to him. But this like, people ask, you know, why don't you 3-stack or 4-stack when you're in high masters or GM? This is actually partially why. Like, average rating of 3.8k, this team has 3 GMs, 1 master, and then you end up with 2 diamonds against 6 probably relatively high master players or average master players, like all around the 3.8. So this is part of why, like, this is actually a really nice demonstration of why you don't see 4-stacks so much. 3-stacks, yes. 4-stacks, probably not, because you end up with these really screwy games where you just, like, the system has to pull diamonds in because it can't find enough players to equalize this game out. Not enough people are stacking at the high ratings that you can actually balance this. It just ends up being very frustrating. And it ends up being frustrating as well for the diamonds, because the diamonds feel super pressured, and it ends up feeling frustrating for the like the GM players.
If you don't have stun, you cannot kill it, right? We need a burst damage. You cannot.
Is this guy asking for the Zenyatta? Also, we're spending way too long in here. Just as like a footnote, if you're waiting to pull people out of spawn, just double check who's alive and who isn't. This is, to me, the highest priority right now, so just try and facilitate this Mercy's escape. Try and get a speed boost on her and try and sort of wrangle everyone up. You don't really have to, like, you're not in a rush to sort of regroup somewhere, and anyone respawning here can probably get towards the higher ground, which is where you probably want to be, relatively easily. So we want to get out of this spawn as quickly as possible and try and scoop up the people still in the front line and pull them back with the speed boost. Get that going.
Hey, can you click stun? If you don't have stun, you cannot kill it, right?
So yeah, I think this guy is saying that he wants a Zenyatta. Being honest, like, I think the strat they're trying to run with the Mei Tracer, they're trying to do 2 separate things at the same time. It's not going to work out.
No.
Okay, we're just skimming across the walls. What we should be doing. Let's try and get back to the team. That's unfortunate. So we've made an interesting decision here. These are the kind of decisions that annoy me. I remember the other day playing with like a Zarya that was doing this, and it was driving me insane. Like Zarya was like, "Focus the tracer, focus the tracer, focus the tracer," not realizing that the Zarya was just so isolated, and it's just like Zarya versus tracer, one-on-one. Like there's just like a tracer down here, right? He's having a good time. And she's just shooting the hell out of this Zarya, having a one-on-one, and she's going to slowly work this Zarya down. But if the Zarya just reunited with the team and grouped up with the team, then all of you could probably deal with the Tracer, and your support would count for more. But in my experience, like, try not to feel too pressured to support people doing stuff like this when you could be facilitating this push in here, for example. The Mei is way stronger if we can get to her with a speed boost. The Reinhardt is way stronger if we can get them to it with a speed boost. And especially because our support's about to die as well. It's like the main fight needs us way more than what's happening down here. It's also interesting to me that the kill feed is slightly off screen. Not sure why that is. We do reunite with the team. Just try and get in position. Stick with our Reinhardt. Good, amp it up. And this is where I want to start commenting on what makes a good Lucio a good Lucio. There's a couple of factors to it. And people have this weird idea, this wrong idea in my mind about Lucio, where the good Lucios are the ones that are constantly wall riding and bouncing all over the place and making themselves a constant nuisance to the enemy team by booping people around. To me, that isn't it at all. The good Lucios are the ones that generally, like, if you're going to use Amp It Up, every single time you use Amp It Up, I want to be able to understand and see a reason for using Amp It Up. So, for example, we're going to move around here. The Reinhardt calls for healing. So we use Amp It Up. This one I'd say is actually a little bit wasteful until we get onto Speed Boost. We want this Reinhardt back on the front line as soon as possible, right? He's called out for healing. He's already on a lot of health and he's got a Mercy on him already, so he doesn't actually need the healing. We just need to get him back to the front line. So amping here to Speed Boost the Reinhardt into position is a very, very valuable thing. As you can see, like, the whatever that was just getting absolutely slaughtered, so we have to do that as quickly as possible. Now that we have the Reinhardt in position, now we can actually just sort of stay put and fight. Very much worth just keeping in mind, just keeping your ears open. There's a D.Va as well. So D.Va just flies up behind us. Fine, just putting a little bit of damage. Like, any opportunity we have to put damage on the Bastion, we should be putting damage on the Bastion. This, I liked. This to me is, again, just good supporting. The Zarya needed us, so we tried to pull her out as best we could. We couldn't pull it off entirely, but hey, we tried our best. Enemy team activates. You would have also actually been okay, I think, at this moment. Like, when we start getting nervous about this area, and we would have also maybe done it. No, we're body blocking. We are body blocking. The Tracer that comes in, I think. Or the D.Va manages to find an angle, I guess. D.Va comes in from behind. No, that's fair enough. I don't think you would have been able to anticipate that she was going to die there. And that just looks like a lag spike to me. It's a bit of a desperation sound barrier, but it is sort of in response to the Valkyrie. It is a little bit late in the fight, but you're okay-ish using it there. You could definitely make the argument, though, to hold on to it. It's just, you know, we're sort of quite considerably into the game. We haven't had a chance to use one yet. Yeah, there's no way we could have saved that Zarya. Activate Valkyrie. We commit slightly too hard to this fight, I think, at this point. And there's a lag spike. The reason why I say that is because we can come back to this fight now, and we can have the sound barrier. Again, if you're going to do this, like... Okay, we've seen that the Mei's died. I'm never the biggest fan of, like, taxiing for DPS in specific. Especially when, like, the fight could be happening any moment. Maybe I'm just more selfish. We definitely want to stay on speed boost on this moment. I know that the Mei's just taking a bit of damage, but that's just because the Reinhardt's bunny hopping. But we still want to close this gap and get to the cover that is the truck as quickly as possible, and sort of put that to work. The Mei goes for an interesting blizzard on the point that I think catches like the Orisa, who just doesn't give a fuck and doesn't stop the Bastion shooting everyone, which is a problem because like they're running this Mei to try and deal with the Bastion, but the Mei's not dealing properly with the Bastion, so we're having issues. Reinhardt trades for the Zen. Tracer's Pulse Bomb comes through, actually counts for a lot. Just good rule of thumb, just with nerf this, like, it's not relevant in this instance, but just in general, swap to speed. You never know when someone else could need it, basically. It's just good housekeeping, it's good habits. Best practice, I suppose you could say. At this point, fight is over, we've won it. Just stabilize on the point. Okay, we stabilized on the point. Now let's just go into cleanup. Swap to speed. Good, we're on speed. Hunt down. Okay, we're sort of done here. Heal, speed, out. Honestly, we'd be fine backing up now. Good. Look like the Mei assume the Bastion will be positioned with the Orisa. It's a Bastion. These players are Masters or Grandmaster level. There's no excuse not to know where the fuck the Bastion is. He's loud, he's bright, he's easy to spot. He ain't subtle. This is where it starts getting weird because like the Reinhardt starts calling out in a language I don't understand. Good. I noticed that there's like a moment or two of confusion. So this is also where like this little bit of awareness helps. So you can see that basically like this guy is going this way. Okay, he's gone that way. We're split off. There's no good way for us to follow him here. So we now have to make the decision of like, okay, well we can't, like what we're going to do here is pointless. There's no way that we can actually contribute a huge amount of DPS here to actually make this fight worthwhile. So what we should be doing is looking to reposition and catch up with the rest of our team. We shouldn't be looking to go forward into this because just running at a Bastion team lineup like we discussed yesterday isn't the best idea in the world, and the Orisa can really punish those sorts of movements. So what we should probably be doing at this exact moment is just moving over to the left and trying to regroup with our team. It's also worth just like taking a moment to look and see what's happening here, because it's actually the Mercy that is healing the D.Va at the moment. And I noticed that we end up hesitating for a second or two, but just taking that split second to look up and look at the D.Va and look at the situation around the D.Va, we'll be able to spot the Mercy and just go, she's dealt with, she's fine. I need to go and regroup with these guys because Reinhardt may really do need Lucio to sort of function. I think you would have been fine just staying on this corner, by the way, just to facilitate the Mei coming out. Good movement to bounce over. Speed during fight when no one's taking damage is fine. You know that there's a D.Va up there, it's okay. Okay, let's just be careful, like, with these movements. We do want to be a little bit careful with, like, this motion. Here. Where we've just, like, run out in front of the tanks a little bit. Like, we are ahead of where the tank is. Now that Reinhardt's charging forward, it's okay. But we just want to make sure that Reinhardt's leading into any swings like that. Because if we get picked off here, that's real bad news bears for us and our team. And there will be instances, for example, they'll just pull out a Widowmaker at random and you'll jump forward thinking, oh, well, we're winning the fight, whatever, or pushing towards their spawn, and then suddenly you'll just get nailed by a Hanzo or some shit out of nowhere, and your team is fucked at that point. This is where we want to be on speed more, just pulling the team back, Good, 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 good. Swap to healer. Let's try and keep an eye on our Mercy, keep our ears open for the Tracer, and then work from that. We have sound barrier, so if they try anything, we can sound barrier it. It's unfortunate, but she was too far forward anyway. Like, she was in front of the payload. I actually want to compliment this moment, because my gut instinct would be to ultimate here, right? And I think this is the enemy team more fucking up than us being superb, but it is good patience from us. Like, I don't want to take away from that. It's just the enemy team do something very strange here, which is that they activate the bongo, and then they activate trance, and they just don't do anything with it. They just stand there Now they start pushing in, and now it's like, okay, we can probably get away with ulting here. And I'd say, like, at this point, after the trance is done, you would have been fine ulting here. Now, you would have been okay ulting. And the reason why I say that is simple. The enemy team does have some threats that you want to be careful of. The Dragon Blade is an obvious one, but the Bongo is an even more obvious one. But, like, this is the last 30 seconds. The enemy team's activated their support ultimate. I tried to now the Zen with the bomb, so it forced into trance. Okay, yep. Well, actually, no, I think the Pulse Bomb got eaten. You can hear the denied. Maybe he just, I think he just panicked. I think the Zen just fucked up. The thing is, after they've used their support ultimate, you are then okay to use yours. Like, there's a couple of different instances where support ultis are okay. Let me actually do it like this. Let me get rid of this. No, wrong one. Right. Let's talk about support ultimates. Does this still show up? No, it doesn't. Of course it doesn't, you dolt. Idiot. Egypt. I'm gonna need this up. Want a screen of like matte black. Whatever this. Okay, right. Now that I have a black background to work with. So, support ultimates. Like, this is a very important concept for playing support. There are two main instances where you want to be using your support ultimates. And it's very, very important to understand how this works. The first one is the most obvious one, which is enemy team activates aggressive ult. So let's go aggro ult. Okay, and so you use your support ultimate to counter it. So this is stuff like Dragon Blade. This is stuff like Tactical Visor. This is stuff like even like Gravitons and Earth Shatters. You can use your support ultimates to try and negate the damage. Now, some of them are better for some ults than others. For example, Transcendence is a lot better for a Grav than a Sound Barrier is. Sound Barrier is very useful at stopping stuff like, you can really mess with Genjis, for example, playing Lucio, because if you catch... So if you Sound Barrier and the Genji also dashes on someone, as long as the Genji doesn't get a kill and you boop him back, the Genji will use, and you have Speed Aura on, the Genji will have a very hard time catching up to people and actually doing anything with that. So they use some form of very aggressive ultimate. Use your support ultimate. The second instance is if the enemy team activates their support ultimate. So you have support ultimate. Because usually what the enemy team is going to do there is... they're then going to push, or they're going to try and fight off the back of it. And there's an advantage, there's like a mind game to this bottom side of things that is very important to understand, which is, if your support ultimate comes off after theirs, that is better. That is just outright better, because you will have a phase where it's like, if we have timelines, where their support ultimate lasts a certain period of time, the enemy, and your support ultimate will last a certain period of time. And the longer you wait... T-friendly, I guess. TF. The longer you wait, the more time you will have where you will just be fighting. And usually there's an interesting thing where if the fight starts with a support ultimate, there's also like a lag time where the enemy team is still reacting to the fact that they have a support ultimate. So this time doesn't really count for anything. So they only actually have this period of time to do stuff with. So therefore you have, like... you negate each other, and then suddenly your team has all this extra time to play with. And this would have been a perfect sort of demonstration of this concept if we activated the support ultimate after they fired off theirs. And because it's like the Zen and the Lucio, you kind of cancel each other out. Not out save on us because you get pressured. It varies. It's usually a good idea. That's actually a very tricky one. In this moment, yes, it will be worth it. The reason why is there are, like, you don't have to think about long-term economy here. You just have to think about, if I'm not in this fight in the next 25 seconds, we could lose this point. Like, we're relying on the Mercy resing us, and the Mercy died as well. Feels bad, man. So we've got to try and get back. We can just about make it. General word of warning, don't do this anymore. Don't do this. You don't do this anymore because my head's in the way because of this. You don't get to do this anymore. It looks cool as fuck. It feels great, but you don't get to do that anymore, unfortunately. Hey! Eldritch Enchantress.
For my favorite coach,
Thank you.
3 thanks for all the advice and keep it up. You lovely person, you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for calling me a lovely person as well. Anyway, you're a lovely person too. Right. Let's... so yeah, you don't get to do this anymore. It's unfortunate, but be very careful about doing stuff like this, because if you get interrupted in any way, it just screws you up. Better make sure you're dropping your sound barriers basically now when you're closer to the ground. It's difficult and it's a pain, and trust me, I know how cool it feels to, like, let's break it down from high ground, but yeah. Otherwise, okay, our job, stay on the point, stay on the payload, contest the payload as much as possible, be friggin' annoying, and try and make sure that every heal is an amped up heal, otherwise we're pretty much on speed and we're just staying alive and running around. We did that, we actually handled this pretty well. Like, I was pretty happy with how we managed this. I was also happy that we just, like, put damage up, so we see the Genji try something, we just put as much damage as we can onto him. Good. This, I think, is a touch excessive, just going around the Orisa. You would just be better on speed, but staying relatively near the payload, but it's okay. It's okay. The reason why I say that is because everyone else is thinking, oh, I'm just going to go and twat the Orisa, and then what can end up happening is that you forget the D.Va's on the point or something, and she just rolls it in, and you feel really stupid. But right, the offensive. I like that this person's called Gun. It's just, there's something very funny about that to me. That they're just called Gun. Yeah, with the save your own ass sort of thing while we're in the setup period.
Focus heal on Bastion.
So you're basically considering this of like what the enemy team usually wants if they're pressuring you while you have a support ultimate. Okay. Is YouTube, please. Please, YouTube. I'm still streaming, yeah? Yeah, it's just YouTube. You would love my brother's mother, then her name was Gun. She was Swedish. Okay. Swedes. Who knew? Anyway. It's the enemy team is trying to eliminate Transcendence from the fight. To try and get something done, for example. So to me, the classic example is you're playing Zenyatta, you have Transcendence, enemy team dives you, what do you do? To me, like, you are A-OK activating Transcendence. You are absolutely fine doing that. And the reason why is, if you die, they Dragon Blade, they win the fight.
Welcome to Overwatch.
If you activate Transcendence and turn around and just win the fight off the back of it, then you're A-OK. Thank you, Limo-senpai. Appreciate it, man. But the idea is, it's very much like you activate the support ultimate and then you do something as quickly as you can off the back of it. Like, you do something with it. You don't just sort of sit there with your Transcendence going, nee, 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 nee. You know, you go and support your team pushes and gets a couple of kills off the back of it, or they activate theirs, so on, so on, so on. Then afterwards, the Genji's going to Dragon Blade, and so on, so on, so on. But it's forcing your support ultimate and then making that active. Miss Walter Anna, running cheese. We are being a little bit wasteful. I get the urge to sort of spam heal like this, but don't worry too much about this. The payload is like doing all the spot healing it needs to. Get a grenade on that. Get a grenade on that. Good. So they're doing the Mei strat too, but they're doing it better. This is where quickscoping will work better. Feels bad, man. This tilts me to no end. You anticipate that the Mercy's going to keep moving forward, but she just decides to stop because she's going to be helpful and she's going to stop moving so the Ana can heal her. No, she's changed her pattern, therefore the shot misses because you're anticipating that she's moving and she stops moving, therefore it gets harder. You can really see the latency here. Wow. Like, you can see that, like, there's the animation, there's the grenade. Feels pretty bad, man. Just try and make sure that if you are dropping these grenades, like, you're as close to the point as possible. Dropping it literally on top of the point is just fine. That Tracer's tearing you guys apart. That crosshair, the crosshair's fine. Not a big deal. As long as there's a... Yes, I believe there is a dot in the middle. As long as there's a dot in the middle, whatever. I'm okay with it. That latency is really crippling you. Like this again is where I'd say just go into settings and turn on so you can see your latency. Once you still in the triangle is not absolute. The triangle is a good rule of thumb for like long range, but at that distance. Well, I'm going to focus too much on the Ana play here, because we don't stay on it for too long. But basically, this is rough. Now that you've abandoned the Bastion strat, you're okay being on Lucio. This team's trickling in slightly. Like the... What was the Winston expecting? Like he's... No one can actually get to him. B boost, good. Heal, nice. Break barrier. Play it safe for now. Like this motion is a little bit unnecessary. Like at this point, the worst thing you can do at this point is die. So you want to minimize risk of people dying because your team is already losing this fight. Your goal at the moment is just to regroup, especially once this guy goes down here. Like this fight is done. This push is done. So think about the enemy sightlines. Enemies can see to about here. Like we're just stepping into their sightlines now. The enemy team's all set up over here. Someone's going to occasionally be poking up here. So anytime we're moving like here, this is scary. Especially with like Mei Zenyatta. That's actually reasonably good at sort of getting picked around corners. So we want to be very careful with doing stuff like that. Just facilitate the team pulling back as much as possible. Because like this is another 7, 8, 9 seconds behind on your attack. And that's a bit of an issue. What language is this? Could be anything. I imagine that one of the difficulties of the Southeast Asian region. There's a lot of different languages. Good, 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 good. This is where we want to be aggressive. Your team has an advantage, speed boost to leverage that aggression. I like it, I like it, I like it, I like it. Otherwise, position near the payload. We don't want to be doing too much sort of push forward. Like these guys are gonna, you notice that they loop back towards the payload continually. Like this is why we want to play more around the payload. Stuff like this guy running off, this is just annoying as well. He should just heal back safely towards the payload. Then he runs all the way around. It's always an interesting thing to me with like the decision for Lucio is just to stay on the payload more often than other heroes, but it's more to do with the actual output of the Lucio. The Lucio's output isn't as huge as Mercy's, for example, so, or even like Zen, in terms of like the amount of damage that Zen can output and do when he's moving forward. Zen can do a lot when he's rolling forward, so that's why you see Lucios traditionally just sit on the payload a little bit more, and then move forward when they need to facilitate a retreat, for example. But this, for example, this is a moment where we should probably actually just be retreating back towards the payload. Because, like, sure, your team's gaining space, but we need to be on the payload. Oh, Mercy, why? 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 It's boring, but hey. He's Diamond and he has GMs on his team? Yep, that's powerful stacking. Okay. We have our sound barrier. It's a risky sound barrier. It works out. So this is one of those issues where it's like Transcendence versus sound barrier. Transcendence is usually better. Just deal with Mei Blizzards. I mean, this could have gone either way, right? The theory of this is that, okay, we are stood in the middle of the blizzard, we are screwed, like we are done. All we can do is put the sound barrier out and hope that our team sort of wins the fight. It's weird because it's not a matchup I've played a lot myself, but just watching this, my gut instinct now, to sort of take as a lesson, is okay, if they're running Mei, we probably should just not sound barrier for Blizzard, unless like we can peel for the Blizzard. What I mean by that is, right, let's say that Mei drops a Blizzard. If we are inside the Blizzard and we're going to get stuck by it, then don't do anything, like don't use any resources, we're screwed. If we sound barrier, we're still probably going to die, the enemy team's going to focus us. We still provide our aura, which is nice, but especially if like one or two or others are going to get caught in it as well, it's just really not worth it. So let's say that yellow is us, and then like pink is like, there's 1, 2 people in there, and then the rest of our team is outside it. Okay? If, however, we're in an instance where we're outside the Blizzard, and let's say that 4 of our team are, like, in it, I would say that you'll probably be better off sound barriering at this point. The reason why is because what will traditionally happen is the enemy team will run forward, and they'll try and secure a couple of kills. And Ryan has a great clip of it on his channel of a Lucio saving him from a Mei freeze. And you'd be surprised how easy it is as Lucio just to like swing in from the side and then just boot people and knock them back. So that they can't get the kill shots as easily. Like people think it's, you know, they go, oh, the target's frozen, I'll just take my time, line up the shot, boop, whoa, and then they miss. So I think you could probably get away with it in this instance a little bit more than you would be able to in other instances. If we're stuck in it, then maybe good rule of thumb is avoid using sound barrier. Transcendence absolutely use it. Sound barrier, not so much. Wait, I didn't even realize we had a Hanzo. Yes, you do. You have a Hanzo. Welcome to playing any game with Hanzo. Unfortunate, but hey, Mercy's got us. Yeah, well, I caught right side from that, so... Well, stay on speed, stay on speed. Good. This is unnecessary. Again, rule of thumb, Lucio, want to be as effective as possible, want to stay with as many people in your team as possible. 2 people are pushing this way, the D.Va's running off this way, fuck the D.Va. D.Va's okay, D.Va can run off on her own, she can do a lot on her own. Go and follow the majority of your team. The Winston is way stronger with a Lucio in tow. Everyone, like the Hanzo, yeah, fuck Hanzo. But in general, stick with the bulk of your team. Wanted to stay on heal a touch longer here. This person's frozen. Get close to them, swap to heal, just to try and compensate for the damage they're about to take. Don't do those boops. I know it's tempting, because you think maybe you're going to knock her past her own wall or something, but remember that Mei coming out of an ice block is always going to have healed, so she's always going to be above the 30 damage or so that you'll do with the boop. So don't boop, basically. Just a good general lesson. And in those instances as well, just try and get, like if you are going to try and get behind her, get far behind her, don't just stand next to her. But no, that instance you were perfectly fine just staying here, healing up the D.Va, supporting the D.Va, and then just letting the Mei run away. We have 2 fights maybe. Speed, heal, good. Speed, 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 speed. It's unfortunate. We are screwed. Okay, you got time for one more push. It's okay. As long as your team dies quickly. At this moment, take 0 risks. You have 15 seconds. That was a waste of an amp, and we need to regroup. So this is actually really bad. Because instead of one person being late to the fight, now 2 people are going to be late to the fight. And the McCree went the other way anyway, for fuck's sake. So ferrying, or like playing taxi as Lucio used to be more relevant. These days it's actually a lot less relevant, just because Lucio's had buffs to the amount of healing he will do with Amp It Up and such. The actual power and impact of Lucio in a team fight is actually way higher than you would expect. And I'd say picking up the Hanzo, okay. You know, we go back, and it's like, okay, well the Hanzo's dead, we'll pick up the Hanzo. Staying for the McCree, I think, is where the real mistake is sort of confirmed, because we commit and Amp It Up, just follow this guy out. Like, we're gonna go in with 5, it's gotta happen. But all we're doing now is guaranteeing that 2 people are absent from the fight instead of 1 person. And that's a bit of a shame. And Hanzo trying to fight someone 3 miles away. But for example, we could have been supporting the Mercy, we could have been facilitating the Winston. Just 1 or 2 small things. Relatively minor, but yeah. And then, oh look, Hanzo McCree don't do anything. Who could have seen this coming? Who could have seen this coming? Hanzo can walk, he can climb over walls. He can, but that's not really going to get him faster in this instance. Honestly, you don't really have anything to apologize for. You played an okay game of Lucio. You didn't play anything spectacular, it wasn't incredible, but it looked like a Lucio. It looked like you were facilitating your team and trying to do what they want to do. It's just like the 4 stack needed to sort their shit out a little bit. I don't know whether it's just the meta on the Southeast Asia servers, where the Bastion or Orisa comps are super common, but in my mind a GM team should not struggle to deal with that comp. The Mei to try and counter it just feels a bit ugh. And the fact that it's like, we have to have a Zenyatta to counter it, it's like, no. 4 stack also needed not to run Hanzo. Everyone needs to not run Hanzo. That was a very quick coaching session. Very quick. Let me check my grab bag. Maybe it's just because it's Lucio and so it's like... It's very broad, sweeping decisions that are somewhat easier to look at. I'll tell you what. Let me have a look. What else do we have? No. I think this one's worth saving. Just double checking 1 or 2 things. See if we can do another one quickly. No. In general, one thing I would say is like we should be trying to be as aware of our team as possible. So there's just a couple of instances where that can bite us in the ass. Like the big instance to me was, you know, it's moments like around here, forward a little bit. No, it's earlier than this. It's basically when like the Reinhardt and everyone went through the courthouse to one side of the map, and we sort of ended up getting a bit lost and confused about where we should be and where we should be positioning. In general, like following around your Reinhardt is not a bad idea. Just like staying near the Reinhardt and staying near the front line, pretty good idea. Just like shepherding around and helping the Reinhardt position in intelligent places is going to get a lot done. Divas and such, they can reposition to you a lot easier than you can reposition to them normally, so you're okay sort of letting them go a little bit. Just don't be afraid to take a moment and just look around. Here. Because moments like this, where we have just indecisiveness, it's like, okay, this Reinhardt's made a call, maybe it's a language we don't understand, but he's very clearly gone in here. Very quickly in my head, it's like, okay, well, we need to follow that, but let's rule out the impossible. The impossible is like running out here. This is dangerous, unless the Diva very specifically covers us, but she can't really do that anymore. It's unrealistic, so let's not take the risk of going here. We can circle round and meet these guys on the opposite side. So speed boost and move as quickly as possible. And when she starts spamming this, you would be fine jumping on the wall, turning, looking, and then just looking back and keeping moving, just to check that, okay, well, this Diva's being looked after by the Mercy, we can get here as quickly as possible, and maybe help facilitate this a little bit more. Then you'll be fine just staying about here with heal on until this Mei pops out, and then just speed boosting back towards the point. So it's little things like that. Like as Lucio, your job is to be as aware as possible. As aware as possible all over the place. Some pro teams use Bastion on some maps, don't call it cheese. It's still cheese. Pros can use cheese. I've watched many pro gamers use cheese strats in the past. Just because it's cheese doesn't mean it's bad or wrong. It just means it's cheese. It means it's scoutable and defeatable with very specific strats. I know some people find, yeah, like, and I can see the discussion actually happening with, you know, people saying, oh yeah, people think that cheese is some insulting thing. It's like, no, it's just a form, it's a playstyle. Cheese is usually a very specific playstyle that is designed to work out the bag for as long as possible, and once you know it's coming, you can probably beat it, or you should be able to beat it if you can see it's coming very clearly. And that's my issue with Josh's definition, because when you as a player can't think of where to counter strat, it immediately becomes cheese in that definition. Are you sure you understand my definition? My definition of cheese is very simple, guys. My definition of cheese is that Overwatch NA Final, Envious used a cheese strat. In Envious's fairness, Envious could probably play whatever the fuck strategy they wanted and would still win in that instance of contenders. They were way, way, way better than their opposition. Insanely better than their opposition. So they could have done whatever they wanted. But pro teams are more than fine to bring out a Bastion strat every now and then. You'd be surprised how well it works. Anyway, let's take some questions. I know that was a quick one, but we'll take some questions and then we'll roll forward with that. Oh, look, it's Overwatch. Oh.